So there was this struggling family, and this struggling family could only afford one car. So that's what they did. It was a mother, a father, and they had a young toddler. And what would happen every single day? So the father would be the first one to get up, and he would go out and start the car, get the family ready. He would take his wife to work, drop his child off at childcare, go to work, then go pick up his wife, go pick up his child, go home, go out and do DoorDash, come home, do it all again the next day. Now, one day, they started having car troubles. And one morning, when he got up, his car wouldn't start. He was like, oh no, I don't know what I'm going to do. And it just so happened his next door neighbor happened to be up. So he asked his next door neighbor if he could give him a jump. So he brings his brand new car. They just bought this brand new car over, but the car wouldn't jump. The car was completely dead. So he was like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, we're already having enough problems. And if I miss a day of work and my wife misses a day of work, I don't know what we're going to do. The neighbor said, give me a second. And the neighbor went to his house, talked to his wife, and came out with the keys to that brand new car in his hand. And he said, here, take our car. And it's like, man, I can't do that to you. And it's like, no, take it. And it's like, okay, well, I promise we'll bring it back. And he stopped him. He was like, no, this is a gift for you guys. This is your new car now. At first, he didn't want to take it, but he was like, the neighbor said, look, if you don't take this, I'm going to be insulted. So eventually he convinced him. He took the keys, took the brand new car. Now, the next day, the father got up and he was looking around frantically, searching for the keys. He couldn't find them. And so his wife tells him, why don't you ask the neighbor if they have a spare key? And he's like, what are you talking about? I can't do that. You actually think they would give us a spare key? The wife looks at him. She's like, babe, if they would not spare their brand new car, but would give it to us as a gift, how are they not going to give us a spare key? And that's what I want to talk about today. So look at our text. Romans 8, starting in verse 31. What shall we say to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? And then the verse for today, he who did not spare his own son, but delivered him up for us all, how shall he not with him also freely give us all things? So remember, we've been talking about those who God foreknew from eternity past. He's predestined, he's called, he's justified, he's glorified. I mean, the whole thing is mapped out. He's marked out those boundaries. Remember, that's what that word predestined means. So Paul is saying, look, in light of all of that, remember, God is working all things together to accomplish this plan, to accomplish his good purpose, to conform you to the image of Jesus Christ, from foreknowing you all the way to your glorification. God's working all things together for your good. So what are we going to say about that? If God is for us, who can be against us? No one can be against us, because every single detail in our life is working for our good from the God who ordained it all. And now for the rest of chapter 8, he gives arguments to support that reasoning that if God is for us, who can be against us? And the first thing he says, he who did not spare his own son, but gave him up freely for us all, how will he not with him freely give us all things? So where does he start? How does he support this? He's like, look, God did not spare his own son. Jesus Christ, the one of infinite worth, more than 10 billion times 10 billion times 10 billion times 10 billion, infinitely over universes of treasure, could not compare to even anything of Christ. I mean, it goes beyond words. That's why I'm struggling. Words just do not express. You cannot express the worth of God the Son, the infinite worth of Christ. And God did not spare him, but God so loved the world that he gave his only Son. And Paul is like, look, if God didn't spare his own Son, how will he not with him if he gave you his Son? To live the life you could not live, to die the death you should have died, to suffer the wrath you should have suffered, to raise for you, to declare you righteous, to be interceding, to be praying for you. If he gave you his Son, how will he not with him freely give you all things? Now, how does this support the argument that if God is for you, who can be against you? Because if you think about it like this, well, God, he gave you his own Son, and he's freely going to give you all things. Even though everything else might be against you, don't worry about it. God's given you all things. Is that what it's saying? No, because that wouldn't support his argument. It's like, if God is for you, who can be against you? Answer, no one can be against you. So this can't just be saying that, hey, yeah, everything's against you, but hey, be encouraged. God will give you, what you need. That's not what it's saying. You later in this book, at the end of chapter 11, we're going to read this. For from him, through him, and to him are all things. Everything comes from God. Remember, we just talked about all things, every detail in your life is working together for your good because God is working them that way. God has marked out the boundaries of your life, absolutely everything in your life, even Satan himself. If you have put your faith in Christ, Satan himself is working for your good. All things are working for your good because you are foreknown, and it's going to work for your good until you're glorified with Christ. And he's saying, now, if that's true, who can be against you? And if God did not spare his own Son, how will he not with him freely give you all things? And this all things is the same all things before. Remember, all things work together for good to the one who loves God. It's the same all things. So it's not saying that, oh, all these things may be against you, but God's going to give you all things you need. No, it's saying all things come from God and that God is for you. So all these things are for you. All these things are an overflow of the one who loves you so much that he gave his only Son to gain your righteousness, to suffer the wrath of God for you. All these things are from him. Everything is from him. And if he didn't spare his own Son, how is he going to keep back any good thing from you? Because everything, nothing compares to the infinite worth and sacrifice that he made in giving his Son. If he's going to give his Son, how will he not give you absolutely everything necessary to accomplish his good purpose, to conform you to the image of Jesus Christ all the way to your glorification? How is he not going to give you every single thing you need if he wouldn't spare his own Son? Of course, he's going to give you every single thing because every single thing is infinitely lesser than the sacrifice he had to make in giving you his Son. So this is the first way Paul supports his argument. It's like, look, God is for you. He has given you his Son, a treasure of infinite worth. How is he not going to give you everything else to accomplish his purpose? So Christian, listen, you have no reason to doubt anything in your life. It may be painful. It may cause you to groan, as we've been seeing in this chapter. It may cause you to suffer. But look, it's from God who is for you. Be encouraged. That thing isn't against you. It is for you. And you say, well, I mean, God gives me a lot of good things, but this, I don't know about this. Look, he didn't spare his own son, Christian. If he didn't spare his own son, you think he's going to give his son for you and then not give you everything else you need? Christian, be encouraged. Embrace that because it's from God. Whatever that is, it's from God. Your good father, your loving father of infinite worth, of infinite wisdom. He's not going to give you something less than the best. You may not understand it, but he does. Continue to cling to God. Trust in him. He will not fail.